برای دیدن عجیب‌ترین رازهای جهان، پیج فکت شاه رو لایک و فالو کن.
What if the phrase first world does not mean what it used to? What if the countries that once defined stability, progress, and comfort are quietly slipping into conditions they once claimed they were protected from? People feel it everywhere now. Crumbling infrastructure, rising costs, empty shelves, service systems stretched so thin they snap, streets that look more like survival zones than cities. A growing sense that the world many were promised is not the world they are living in, that something foundational has shifted, and no one in power is willing to say it out loud. Look at the symptoms. They are undeniable. Power grids failing in countries that once bragged about technological superiority. Water systems contaminated in places that were supposed to be models of cleanliness. Major cities struggling with basic sanitation. Public transport systems collapsing under their own weight. Every sign points to decline, yet every official insists nothing is wrong. But if nothing is wrong, why does everything feel broken? People in the first world grew up with a specific promise: stability, opportunity, a rising path through life. And for a long time, those promises held. Strong economies, affordable homes, trustworthy institutions, predictable futures. Now look around. The cost of living rises faster than wages. Healthcare is a maze. Housing is unattainable. Education leaves people in debt for decades. Families that once lived comfortably now juggle 2 or 3 jobs just to stay afloat. The ground that used to feel solid now feels hollow. There is a reason people say the first world is transforming into something else. Because the gap between rich and poor widens every year. Because public services are overwhelmed. Because safety nets tear faster than they can be stitched. Because the middle class that built modern nations is thinning out like a ghost image. When the center collapses, everything collapses with it. You can track the shift through everyday experiences. Try calling an emergency service and listen to the wait times. Try renewing a passport and see how many months it takes. Try booking a doctor and see if you can be seen before your symptoms get worse. When systems fail quietly, society fails loudly. Yet the blame always falls on the public, never on the architects who let the foundations rot. Now look at the cities, the places that were once symbols of modern achievement. Skyscrapers, transit lines, lights that never went dark. They were built to signal progress. But now many look like warning signs instead. Infrastructure decades overdue for repair. Bridges rusting, roads cracking, transit lines delayed for hours, hospitals filled beyond capacity, schools unable to keep teachers. Every piece of the structure feels stretched too thin to survive another decade. People are starting to ask whether this decline is natural or the result of years of neglect by those who were supposed to maintain the world they inherited. Then there is the psychological shift, a sense of instability that lingers beneath everything. People feel less safe, less supported, less confident in the future. They sense that the world they grew up believing in is not the world they actually live in. When people from strong nations begin to say they feel like they live in unstable ones, that is not paranoia. That is evidence of decline. People do not lose trust in systems without a reason. Systems lose the trust of people when they stop working. Economists call this period a transitional phase. Historiologists call it the late stage of an empire. Sociologists call it systemic decay. But the average person calls it something much simpler. They call it unfair. They call it unsustainable. They call it a betrayal of everything they were told about how their society works. Because if the first world is becoming the third world, then the illusions that kept people calm are fading. You see it in the markets. Prices rise, essentials shrink, savings evaporate. No matter how hard people work, they struggle to maintain the life their parents had. Generations that should be thriving are instead drowning in costs that never rise in balance with their incomes. This is not normal. This is not progress. This is a sign of regression. Technology was supposed to make life easier. Instead, it became another tool to widen the divide. Automation removed jobs faster than new ones were created. Digital systems replaced human service. Algorithms replaced accountability. And everything became more expensive, more complicated, more fragile. When people lose meaningful work, they lose stability. When stability disappears, fear takes its place. Governments always offer the same explanation: inflation, markets, unpredictable times. But these excuses do not explain decades of neglect. They do not explain failing infrastructure. They do not explain why everyday people feel like they are fighting a battle they did not start. They do not explain why the places that were once global powerhouses now feel like they are held together by tape. The first world becoming the third world is not about poverty alone. It is about the erosion of safety, trust, and predictability. When people feel like tomorrow is more uncertain than today, society enters its breaking point. When people lose confidence in institutions, those institutions collapse. When people feel abandoned, they stop following rules. These are the patterns that lead to the end of eras. And here's the part that makes this moment so tense. People are waking up. They see the cracks. They hear the excuses. They know the decline is not temporary. They know the world is shifting in a direction that leaves them behind. They know that the promise of a strong society depends on a structure that is no longer being maintained. If the first world becomes the third world, it does not happen because of one event. It happens because of 1,000 small failures that stack on top of each other until the weight becomes impossible to ignore. It happens when the people in charge forget that society requires constant upkeep. It happens when the ones with power choose comfort over responsibility. It happens when no one admits how bad things have gotten until it is too late. Travelers already see the similarities. Crowded hospitals, broken transportation, streets filled with desperation, wealth concentrated in pockets while the majority struggles. The signs are unmistakable. The world many believed was permanent is now dissolving in real time. You can debate why this is happening. You can debate who is responsible. You can debate how much longer the structure can survive before something gives. But the one thing no one can deny is that the shift is happening. Fast, loud, unavoidable. And the people who sense it first are always the ones who pay attention. You be the judge. If you are awake, you already know what to do. Hit the link in our description and sign up to our free underground newsletter.